Now I'm going to show you how to create your tile sets within Unreal and get them placed within your game. So now I'm in Unreal, I'm going to create a new game. Obviously you may already have projects that you can use. I'm going to create a side scroller as a base. Set these up how best you feel. I usually leave it on the base settings, maybe just turn off your no starter content, name your project. So let's name this one Tileset Testing because it's demonstration. So I will create project, to give this a minute or so to load in. Here we go. So the next thing you need to do is go to your files and find where you've saved your tile set that we've just created in Photoshop. So here is mine, and then you just want to drag and drop that into the content browser at the bottom within Unreal. And then what you should have is something like this. If you double click this, you should see your assets as you set them up in Photoshop. No background. This means they're ready to be used. If you do have a background, if something isn't right, you may need to go back into Photoshop and check that. If any of your assets in your content browser have this little star next to them, this means they're not saved to the game. There's a couple of ways you can save things. You can save them individually by opening and pressing save up here, or you can press save all just here and it'll save everything. Pop up with a thing saying what it's going to save, turn them on and off depending on how you're going to use them. Just press save selected and you'll see now that that star has disappeared. Next, we're going to go right click within the content browser, go to paper 2D and create a tile set. Name this something appropriate, so again, if this is trees and bushes, call it trees and bushes, whatever it may be, but for me, this is demonstration. I'm just going to call this tile set test 01. Again, remember to name them appropriately with numbers if you need to. Then if we double click, it'll come up with this screen. So in here, where it says tile sheet texture, you click on where it says none, and then find in here, you'll have 2D background and things like that. The one we're looking for is the game tileset test 01, or whatever your texture is named that you've just brought in with your tile set on. So now has brought that through. The next step is you need to set this up to be what you set up your grid. So if it's 64 by 64 or 128 by 128, you need to set that up here. So 128 by 128. So once this is done, you can press save here, save that, and just close it up here. So the next step is to create a paper 2D sprite. So I know we covered sprites last session. It's going to be very similar. Click on sprite, name this appropriately. So this time I'm going to do specifically the tree on my set. This might be tree number 1, tree number 2 on yours, or grass, cobbled path, wood planks, whatever it is, you'll name it that. So I'm just going to call this one tree. Again, double click this, you'll get this screen. Now what you need to do here, again in the source texture, click on none and go to your game tile set test like this. So your whole set is going to come up again, and then what we need to do, we need to press on this edit source region, and what it'll give you is this square. Now it's really important, it does say up here but it's quite small to see. You need to double click on the edge or these little dots to get up the tools to reshape it to the specific area you want. So I'm just going to do this tree here for this one. So now I've double clicked that, I can pull it in, pull this up. Now this is really important for separating your items out. You can zoom in, pull this as close as you can, because this will also work out how close the collisions are going to work. So you want it just as best you can. Something like that. Yep. And you'll see it says tree over it, which is quite handy for when you do the others, because you'll be able to see where the tree box is, the head, the bush, things like that, which I'll show you. So now you've got this, you can press save. I would save it here and close. What you should have here is a tree. It's a tree sprite. So now you've got your tree sprite, you can drag that in to your game, like so. Now, one important thing is to remember that on a 2D game, everything that you want your character to interact with is at 0 on the Y here. So at the moment it's at -300, which basically means if we rotate the camera, you'll see it's quite a bit behind the character. So the character is just going to walk in front of it like it's a background. Now, if it's at 0, so if I change this figure here to 0, that'll bring it alongside and you'll be able to see it sort of flickering with this one because they're overlapping. If you put this to a positive number, so if I put it to 50, that's going to bring it in front and the character's then going to walk behind it. So depending on where you want your item, if you want your character to go in front or behind, this Y number will be really important. Remember, 0 is at the same level as the character, minus is behind the character, and positive is in front of the character. The rest you can do with either the arrows or the X and Z. So the X will take it up and down. The Z will take it up and down. And the X will move it left and right. So if I want to put the tree here, that's where it will be. Yep. So I'm actually going to move it just down here for demonstration purposes, as you'll see in a second. So the tree is on the next level. You can actually lock your scale here. Scale this up. So scale them all together. And then move it up in place. And if you hold Alt and drag in a direction, it will make a duplicate. And this duplicate you can then make smaller if you wish, bigger, rotate it, whatever you need to do to set it up. So I've got something like this. Yeah. So now, if I play the game, let's play, and you see now I can't go past the tree because that is set up on the same level. So now that it's at 0, these are too big for it to jump over, can't go past them. The colliders were working in place. So, just to go through that a little bit more, when we're starting to make our games, delete these, delete these. So now I want to bring in, let's say, a path. So again, right click on here, Paper 2D, Sprite. I'm going to call this one Path. Double click this, go to your source texture, select your game tile set test, edit source region, and you'll see here it now says tree because we set that one up, and this one says path. But at the moment we just want this bit on the path. So again, double click, and you can drag this down to where you're comfortable. Double click this one, so no. Double click this one, put this one in. Again, you can zoom in and out, and then you can save this, close this, and then as you've probably guessed, we can drag this in, set this up to 0, and then if we are to set this just under the player's feet, and then again if we was to hold shift, Alt drag, and then start creating your level how you want it to be. So let's say, just for example, I'll drag that again. This was sort of the level. I'm going to move this tree down here a little bit. Move this one over. So we're getting something like this. We'll make one more. So again, paper 2D, sprite. I'll call this one head, a stone head actually. Underscores are really good instead of spaces for finding things if you're naming anything. Again, double click, source texture to game tileset test, edit source region. Again, you'll see tree and path now. If you double click on this one, and we're going to target this head at the top. Get this nice and close. So again, like I said, if it's not nice and close, your character will stop way before the actual asset is next to the person. So just be aware of that. Yep. Then press save. Stone head, name on it, tree, and you'll have your path down there. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring this in. Again, just for demonstrations, I'm going to use this as something to jump on. So if I set this to 0, lift this up, this across, and now we've got a little bit of level going on. Obviously nothing special, but obviously yours will be a lot better. We go to play, and now I can jump up and down, jump over there, jump on the head. I can't get past this, can't get past. So then you can start creating your levels how you feel you want them to be, designing them to be whatever you want them to be. Again, if you had a background, you bring this in the same way, but instead of you say, for example, this tree was the background, you'd maybe put that at about 400, negative 400, sorry, minus 400, and increase the scale of it. Let's make this really big. Obviously you would have your actual background there, but if this was the case, you'd have something like this, and then move these across, like so. So have a bit of a different background. We could have one of these heads over here that's bigger and in front of the character. So again, scale this up, have the character walk behind this. That's up here. This is currently at positive 10, we put that up to 50. You'll see now that the head, or we can even bring it in front of that, head is in front of where the player is, the trees are behind. So now if we were to play now, I'll click on here, the character walks in front of the trees behind, walks behind the big head, and anything that's at 0 it will interact with, it will jump on, it will run into. Okay, so now you should be able to start creating your game levels.